A well-known mystic shares information about the clown sightings and the purge. A group of freelance ghost hunters as well as a well-known mystic. He had his on T.V show, however I was asked not to give their names. The wish to inform the public that this clown purge as it is being called happens every 213 years. According to them there is an old evil that takes hold of people that wish to dress up as clowns. They can control people, a small group of people every 213 years. During that last year they cause issues until the night after Halloween night. They pointed to the fact that most of us have never seen something like this before, and we haven't. They provided us with a number of stories to pass on to you. And to warn you not to play with Ouija boards that night. This will only provide a gateway for them to find a host to feed on the living. Here are cases of the old evil coming over to our side. After this we list the clowns of old so you can get an idea of what you are messing with if you are one of the brave ones that will have to face them sometime this month. Stay safe, strong and paranoid my friends. In May 2001 Stephen LaChance and his 3 children decided to move from a small apartment to a larger antique house in Union, Missouri. The house has a basement that also includes an old butcher's shower area and fruit cellar. With almost all its features in perfect condition, the house was exactly what they wanted, or so they thought. During the following weeks, Steve and his children were haunted by mysterious entities and unexplained phenomena. For instance, a dark, misty figure of a man was seen lurking in different corners of the house. Steve's younger son, on the other hand, witnessed something more terrifying, a demonic clown ghost walking in the hallway. As it turned out, his son had a crippling fear of clowns, and the ghost was clever enough to prey on his weakness. They eventually decided to leave the house, but Steve made sure to warn every family that would later move in. His horrifying experience was later featured in Discovery Channel's A Haunting and in a book written by Steve himself. Frederick Zazabi was a Czechoslovakian clown who moved to Liverpool during the Edwardian era. He tragically committed suicide, but his ghost remained behind to haunt unsuspecting children. In December 2002, 13-year-old Thomas and his younger brother, Aaron, were awakened in their bunk beds by what seemed like an echoing laughter. They soon opened their eyes to see a hair-raising apparition standing in their doorway. Dressed in a one-piece maroon suit, the ghostly clown had one hand on its belly and the other pointing directly toward the terrified children, as if taunting them. His face was even more bizarre, a long crooked nose, hollow eyes like that of a skull, and heavy makeup made the clown completely unrecognizable. Witnesses also tell of a sickly sweet smell that accompanies Zazabi's ghost anywhere it goes, a repulsive odor thought to be embalming fluid. Amon Paul Carlock Jr. was a popular Christian clown from Springfield, Illinois. Using the stage name Klutzo the Clown, he entertained countless Sunday school kids and even orphans from countries like Mexico and Philippines. The fact that the entertainer was a former minister, magician, police officer, and youth counselor made people believe that he was in the business for all the right reasons. But as it turned out, Carlock was just another wolf in a clown's clothing. In June 2007, Carlock arrived at the San Francisco International Airport after working as a clown at an orphanage in the Philippines. Because he just came from a country known to be high risk for sex trafficking, Carlock was stopped by immigration authorities. Nude photos of young boys, some of whom were not aware that they were being photographed, were found on his laptop and digital camera. A search warrant was then issued and at least 21 child pornographic movies were recovered from Carlock's home. 3 boys from House of Joy also came forward, revealing that Carlock had molested them. Klutzo the Clown gave his alibis, of course, but nothing saved him from multiple child porn charges unless you count death. Carlock died after being tossed by a security officer. In May 1990, Marlene Warren opened the door of her Wellington residence to receive an unexpected visitor, a clown holding a bouquet of flowers and 2 silver balloons. But before she could even say thank you, Marlene was shot and killed with a .38 caliber revolver. Initial investigations came up with two possible suspects, Michael Warren, the dead woman's husband, and the 27-year-old Sheila Keene, who was rumored to be romantically involved with the former. Both denied the allegations. Sheila claimed that she and Michael were just business partners. Michael, on the other hand, claimed that he was en route to Calder racetrack with some of his friends on the day of the murder. Despite evidence pointing toward them both being guilty, there wasn't enough for a conviction, and the identity of the killer clown remains a mystery. From the 80s to the early 90s, child abductors dressed up as clowns terrorized a number of towns in the U.S. One notable incident happened in May 1981, when police officers from Brookline, Massachusetts released a bulletin regarding a mysterious van lurking near the local elementary school. A clown or group of clowns hiding inside the vehicle allegedly used candies to lure young victims towards the van. The most recent sighting took place in Chicago, Illinois, where a community alert was subsequently issued in late 2008. The similarities were striking. An unidentified man was spotted wearing clown makeup and offering balloons to lure children into his white van. And now it has started again. In September 2004, Eric Dau and his wife Cher Rise were driving into a mobile home court in Camanche, Iowa. Everything was going smoothly until they saw a startling sight ahead of them. Lined up in the middle of the road were dozens of spooky Ronald McDonald dolls. The incident happened at approximately 12:30 a.m. Yet a volunteer firefighter in the area claimed that he drove in the same road 2 hours earlier and saw nothing unusual. Eric's wife suspected that it was a scheme used by assailants to lure women out of their cars. Strangely, all the clown dolls disappeared without a trace the following morning. Named after the two legends of the horror genre, Vincent Price and Alfred Hitchcock, this clown doll is a toy and ghost rolled into one. Renee, a real estate agent from Oregon, first saw the doll in an online auction and, as a lover of all things creepy, she purchased the item for $500. Shortly after putting Vincent in a designated corner in her house, she began experiencing bizarre occurrences. There were several instances when the clown doll suddenly vanished from where it was left, only to reappear in unexpected places. In fact, Renee said that she once found the doll with both arms mysteriously raised in the air. Later, a tape recorder left near the doll captured a deep voice of a man uttering the words "wake up," while no one was in the room. Although it is believed that Vincent Hitchcock is possessed by a spirit of a child, the identity of the ghost remains a mystery. The Harlequin is often described as an androgynous creature with wide open, dark eyes, long limbs, and an extremely white complexion. In most cases, they only appear to children as young as 5 or 6 years old, and according to author Brad Steiger, they are real. Dan Mitchell, who was only 5 during his first Harlequin encounter, described the creature as very thin and exuding a damp, fresh smell like summer rain. It also gives a sinister laugh chills to anyone who hears it. Karen Davis, on the other hand, says that she woke up one night only to see a Harlequin sitting on the foot of her bed. In both incidents, the Harlequin appeared to be harmless. "I don't care if she is, I am still going to look for her." We all know John Wayne Gacy as the guy who gave party clowns a bad name. A prolific serial killer, Gacy was convicted for the murder and sexual assault of 33 young men, all of these while offering his services as Pogo the Clown in children's parties. Sadly, the mystery of the killer clown didn't end when he was executed in 1994. Private Detective Bill Borsch believes Gacy's victims didn't stop at No. 33. Raffle Tovar, a Des Plaines detective, claimed that he once asked Gacy about the whereabouts of his other victims. "That's for you guys to find out," was Gacy's only sarcastic reply. Another detective also discovered that Gacy traveled to 15 to 20 states in the 1970s. These data open up the possibility that there might be other bodies buried somewhere else, but to this day, none have been found. One of the members of the ghost hunting team said she thought the clowns we are seeing now are the victims they have never found, somehow seeking revenge on the living for giving up on them. Clowns and clown sightings go as far back as the Native American. This is an old evil that cannot rest. These restless clown demons must find a living host to once more become a part of this world of the living. Many Native American tribes had their own types of clowns. The white fool or white crazy man of the Arapaho isn't just terrifying in hindsight. He was feared by his own people. He was called the white fool because he painted himself in white clay, and he was said to have access to a special sort of medicinal magic. That made him powerful, and it was also understood that the white fool enjoyed complete and absolute sexual freedom during ceremonies. That meant anything went with anyone he wanted, and he was one of the most dreaded figures in ritual. Even in myths, the white fool was a figure in opposition to the heroic, selfless figure of Big Chief, who plotted to rid himself of the fool even though they were brothers. The clown you know today was the familiar figure of the modern clown, and the idea of pantomime were largely developed by British performer Joseph Grimaldi. He was introduced to the theatre by his father, a mad performer known as the Signor or Grimaldi. The Signor claimed that the devil had once told him that he was going to die on the first Friday of the month. Every time that day rolled around, the Signor locked himself in a room full of clocks and stayed awake all night. To train future stage performers, the Signor subjected them to bizarre tortures like hanging them above the stage in stocks. Biographers suspect that his upbringing by an unpredictable madman allowed Joseph Grimaldi to create an onstage character that was just as unpredictable and mad. His 19th-century countenance was described as part child, part nightmare, with a mouth colored the blood red of a gaping wound. He was also cursed with a split personality that wavered between depression and mania. Didn't I say this was an old evil? The Aztecs might be associated more strongly with human sacrifice, but they apparently liked a bit of humor as much as the next civilization. When Hernan Cortés returned to Europe with treasures he had stolen from the Aztecs, he included a handful of Aztec clowns, dwarfs and hunchbacks in his presentation to Pope Clement VII. William H. Prescott wrote his masterwork on the Aztecs and their fall, painting a graphic picture of Montezuma's personal clowns and fools. Prescott claimed that they were so hideously deformed that they were probably not created by any natural, normal means. Like other rulers, Montezuma was noted as believing that buried in his clowns' jests and japes was at least a hint of the truth that no one else dared to tell. They would come in and take people in their sleep. In the 1570s, a group of Italian performers headed out of Italy and into Antwerp and then Paris. They were led by Tristano Martinelli, who had created a particular character for his routine. He dressed in a black leather mask, a full body suit decorated with patches, and a hat decorated with a rabbit's tail. He also had a wooden sword. Martinelli adopted the name Arlequin. The character became so popular that he was adding Detto Arlecchino Comico onto his signature within a few years. The original Harlequin was a servant and an absolute fool. Eventually, Martinelli wore a half mask with an exaggerated, quizzical expression, and the character became associated with something dark. Parallels were drawn between Martinelli's Arlequin and Alecchino, a demon that shows up in Dante's famous vision of hell. Clowns get hungry, right? The Native American tribes of the Northern Plains region named their clowns after the Wendigo, a terrifying, gigantic creature that prowled the forests and preyed on travelers to satisfy its taste for human flesh. Variously called Wendigoken, Weedigoken, or Wintgagax by different tribes, the cannibal clowns were deceptively named. Once a leader had been visited by a vision of the skeleton being, a group of 10 men would dress in rags and don masks with long noses. Then the clowns would head out on a hunt. Once their prey was brought back to camp, they would stage an elaborate mock hunt. The clowns would stalk and then flee from everything from the remains of the fallen animal to strips of drying meat, all designed to elicit laughter. It was the laughter that was medicinal, thought to drive away any demons or evil spirits that were possessing members of the tribe. There are 4 types of Hopi clowns. Although each serves a distinct purpose, the contrary clowns remain a reminder of what waits for us all. At the same time, they divert evil by causing laughter. Laughter has long been thought to be one of the most powerful weapons against evil and evil spirits. The Hopi contrary clowns get their laughs by acting in a manner completely opposite to the regular way of life. They mock the most serious of problems faced by people on a daily basis, but their reversed language and actions are an interpretation of what waits for everyone in the underworld. Hopi beliefs say that everything in the afterlife is reversed, from day and night to cardinal directions. The clowns that carry out reversed behavior in the land of the living are in sync with the realm of the dead. And this brings us to our last, sometime the worst clown is one that don't wear any makeup. Ian Gaspard Deborah was the man behind one of Paris's most celebrated clowns, the white-faced and acrobatic Pierrot. Everyone from the nobility to the working class loved him, no matter what personality he decided to adopt for any particular performance. But his career took the darkest turn possible when he was walking through the Paris streets and a child called out to him with the name of his stage persona. Deborah turned, raised his cane, and cracked the child on the skull so hard that the boy died instantly. Deborah was ultimately acquitted of the murder. Although he never revealed what caused him to kill the child, his biographers suggested that Deborah had something of a dual personality. It was only as Pierrot that he was in control of his emotions and actions. When the makeup came off, the darkness came out. Stay paranoid, my friends. Condition, the house was exactly what they wanted, or so they thought. During the following weeks, Steve and his children were haunted by mysterious entities and unexplained phenomena. For instance, a dark, misty figure of a man was seen lurking in different corners of the house. Steve's younger son, on the other hand, witnessed something more terrifying, a demonic clown ghost walking in the hallway. As it turned out, his son had a crippling fear of clowns, and the ghost was clever enough to prey on his weakness. They eventually decided to leave the house, provide a gateway for them to find a host to feed on the living. Here are cases of the old evil coming over to our side. After this we list the clowns of old so you can get an idea of what you are messing with if you are one of the brave ones that will have to face them sometime this month. Stay safe, strong and paranoid, my friends. In May 2001, Stephen Lachance and his 3 children decided to move from a small apartment to a larger antique house in Union, Missouri. The house has a basement that also includes an old butcher's shower area and fruit cellar. With almost all its features in perfect, the wish to inform the public that this clown purge, as it is being called, happens every 213 years. According to them, there is an old evil that takes hold of people that wish to dress up as clowns. They can control people, a small group of people, every 213 years. During that last year they cause issues until the night after Halloween night. They pointed to the fact that most of us have never seen something like this before, and we haven't. They provided us with a number of stories to pass on to you. And to warn you not to play with Ouija boards that night. This will only but Steve made sure to warn every family that would later move in. His horrifying experience was later featured in Discovery Channel's A Haunting and in a book written by Steve himself. Frederick Zazabi was a Czechoslovakian clown who moved to Liverpool during the Edwardian era. He tragically committed suicide, but his ghost remained behind to haunt unsuspecting children. In December 2002, 13-year-old Thomas and his younger brother, Aaron, were awakened in their bunk beds by what seemed like an echoing laughter. They soon opened their eyes to see a hair-raising apparition. A well-known mystic shares information about the clown sightings and the purge. A group of freelance ghost hunters as well as a well-known mystic. He had his on T.V show, however I was asked not to give their names.